Dante, hey, get your ass back in here real quick. Sorry, Tony. Look, last year, you got put in a tough position. Your brother got hurt, you had to do the unthinkable. Inter singles competition, my friend. And you managed to make it all the way to the AEW World Championship. So, I know Darius is back. I know you guys will be going for the tag titles, but let me tell you, you are one of the hardest hitting, one of the fastest guys I've ever wrestled in my life. And I want to tell you, should you make it back here, I'd be glad to do it again.
Wrestling podcast of TalkAEW.net. I'm your co-host, Marika McDonald, joined as always by my co-host, Mr. Aaron Santos.
Hello, WrestleManiacs.
And the editor-in-chief of TalkAEW.net, the ravishing Ricky D.
What's up, Mariko? What's up, Aaron? What's up, AEW Nation?
What's up?
Okay, what's up, Danhausen? I know you're waiting for it. What's up, Hook? What's up, Chris Jericho and your new faction? And what's up, Tony Khan? We're going to talk about all these people today.
I should start calling Ricky R-Truth with all the what's ups.
That would be so much better than Swerve, because we got to talk about Swerve, too.
The segue.
I'm not a happy camper today. You know, I thought the last podcast we did was one of our best. If anyone hasn't listened to it, go back and listen to that show. Basically our summary of Revolution, but I don't know. I just thought that episode was just full of energy. We were so positive, and today I think we're going to be negative Nancy.
Maybe a little bit. I think there's still some good things a-brewing with the fallout of Revolution 2022. There's some new storylines that just started planting some seeds that'll be interesting. But first,
wait,
oh no,
what are we doing for our main event?
Our main event, we are going to be talking about, do we get spoiled on AEW for good matches so that when we watch pay-per-views, sometimes the matches could have been on TV and sometimes the TV matches could have been on pay-per-view. What do we think about this? Are there matches that were on TV that should have been on a pay-per-view? And were there matches that are on pay-per-view that should have been on TV?
Oh boy. The big TV versus PPV conversation. I'm going to need a therapist.
But I think before all of that, it's time for Ricky's question block.
All right, so I don't have many questions this week, but I think I have some very important questions and things to address. And I want to start with Chris Jericho and his new faction, because we all expected this to happen. Mariko, you hinted about this, I think about a month ago, if not longer. You're like, yeah, he's going to, I think so. Or maybe it was Aaron. One of you said he's going to go heel. He's going to start a new faction. The thing is, my question is, what do you think of the new faction, who he selected?
I think
and also the name.
Okay. I do have very strong feelings about the name. Because he wholesale stole it from Maki Ito. And Chris Jericho, you are many, many things. You are one of the greatest of all time. However, you are not Maki Ito.
No.
Now, wait a minute. What is the name of the faction?
The Chris Jericho Appreciation Society.
So he just replaced her name with his name?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are my feelings.
Is this a build up for like Maki Ito to come to AEW and then be like, hey, why'd you steal the name? You know?
Oh, we can only hope, right?
Yeah, we could only hope. But what do I feel about this faction? I'm just like, well, the members are cool because you have 2.0, you have Daniel Garcia.
Oh, they're gonna be so annoying.
Yep.
Oh, we're gonna hate their faces so much.
But like watching like it'd be interesting to see like Matt Parker interacting with Chris Jericho, right? I
Oh
mean,
my god, they're gonna
so-
be hilarious.
exactly. He's already such a great talker, and Chris Jericho too. I think it'll be interesting. I think it'll be interesting.
Like the improv shit that those three will be able to get up to, like it's gonna be
Mhm.
some funny stuff.
I agree. I think he pretty much replaced Santana and Ortiz with a tag team who is completely different and will bring a different sort of vibe.
Yeah.
And so it'll be similar, but not the same.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got Daniel Garcia, who's replacing Sammy,
Right.
who he's not similar to Sammy in terms of like the way he wrestles.
Mhm.
I'm gonna say it again. He's not similar to Sammy in terms of like the way he wrestles. He's not high flying. He's not gonna do
No.
630 like whatever you call it, flips. But he's young. He's most likely going to be a champion within a year or two. He's I don't know, Garcia. I mean, he's got to be like Spanish, the Spanish god being replaced by Garcia. I don't know exactly. Like, I know he's born in the States, but you know what I mean. He has some sort of like in terms of like his nationality, like there's similarities. They're similar, but they're not the same. The Jake Hager thing kind of makes sense. He keeps Jake Hager because I guess he wants the muscle man.
Right.
Like, you know, so like, who else is he going to use?
Well, exactly. I mean, what else is Jake Hager gonna do without Chris Jericho anyway?
Let's be honest.
Yeah. So I mean, the thing is, I like this because he often gets criticized for surrounding himself with young talent to keep himself in a spotlight, and I think that's smart. I'm like, why would you criticize someone for being smart?
Right.
And it's not like he's not working to get them over at the same time. Like he works his ass off to get people he thinks are talented and young people over.
Yeah.
Exactly. And he gets everyone over. I mean, he got Eddie Kingston over. He got Orange Cassidy over. He put Darby Allin and Jack Perry over. Well, actually, did Jungle Boy beat Chris Jericho?
No, but he went the time limit. So that was like the marker at the time, because we're talking first year AEW here. So
yeah, I'm not too hot on the name. And the only thing is, in terms of like the actual spin and the gimmick, if it is about being like influencers, he has like some of the most uncharismatic people in his faction. And I'm looking at Daniel Garcia, who, by the way, I love, one of my favorite wrestlers, but he lacks the charisma.
He has
or
a
at least on the
different
microphone.
kind of charisma. It's not a microphone charisma. I guess he's more like a physical presence. I think presence is maybe a better way of putting it.
Yeah.
If they're gonna go the route of like the influencers, I'm not sure how he's gonna vibe in that sort of like gimmick. We'll see. Jake Hager again, he's just the muscle in the background.
The way that he finished that whole segment was about entertainment, and I had mentioned last week it was confirmed he trademarked the sports entertainer. So I think it's going to be more about entertainment than influence in the end.
The spotlight's going to be on him. It's got to be, because I mean, 2.0, they're hilarious. But I'm just, what I'm saying here is I'm curious to see what this does for Daniel Garcia.
Right. I think
it's going to do good things for him, like big things.
You see, I think Garcia has like a charm too. Like, I totally agree. I think that's why a lot of people like him. He's like sort of like the silent sniper, like the deadly assassin, who we know he's deadly. He's great in the ring. He's just so talented in the ring. But we're never gonna. He's kind of like Bret Hart in a way. I mean, Bret Hart would talk more than he would, but he wasn't flashy like Shawn Michaels. So we'll see. I'm excited. And again, I don't think there's anything wrong with Jericho keeping himself in a spotlight, because why wouldn't you keep yourself in a spotlight?
Yeah.
So we did have a world title championship match, which we're going to talk about in the main event, because I do have an issue with this. But I just wanted to know, was this announced ahead of time? Like, did we know that Dante Martin was going to get a shot at the title on Dynamite? Because I had no clue.
Most of the card, like honestly, most of the card was announced the day of, with like I think there were only like 3 or 4 matches announced by the time it went to air. Like, from what my husband was able to glean on Rampage, on Reddit. Because we were discussing it and he was, checking things out. And was like, yeah, there's only like 2 matches. I was like, okay. I mean, post pay-per-view, like, I don't know, but it everything felt very random. And I don't know if we're going to talk about this later, but there was something else that they did on the show to do with booking that was really weird and overall didn't any serving a purpose.
We shall return to this in the main event. I have a few things that I need to say, but I was just kind of curious because it kind of feels like they've had sort of like these ideas that they've been working on story-wise.
Right.
Like, for example, the faction, the new faction, I mean, by Chris Jericho. But I kind of feel like maybe they were delayed at one point because I feel like Dante Martin should have had this match before Darius returned. That would have made more sense.
Honestly, I feel like this match was actually just kind of a crowd service filler.
Right, because like he's number 2, right?
Yeah, he's ranked number 2.
Yeah, he's ranked number 2. But I don't know. I was surprised by the match, but at the same time, I didn't have too much problems with the match because I think
it was very random, but it was very fun.
Yeah, it was very fun. But like in terms of like the ranking, I mean, we had to find a way to like get Dante Martin out of the championship picture so he can continue with his brother, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way. Yeah, that's the way I
totally
saw it.
agree.
Yeah, and it was also a nice way to give him a rub and Hangman really did like continue to be like the baby face of all baby faces. Cutting a promo to put his opponent over. So yeah.
Anyhow, all I'm saying is I think that this match should have just been before Darius returned because you're totally right, Aaron. It was just to give him the shot because he clearly deserved it because he was ranked number 2. Otherwise, what's the point in the rankings? Which we complain about all the time. What's the point in the rankings?
Yeah.
There is a point in the rankings, people. It's you got to be within the top 5 to get a shot at the championship. You don't have to be 1 or 2. Okay. So what do you think of the tag team of Moxley and Danielson? Would you prefer they wrestle as single competitors, or are you hot on this new tag team?
I love it. Give me more.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious to see like where does William Regal fit in, but they work well together. It's 2 different styles of wrestling, like it's interesting.
I was actually kind of surprised Regal went on Twitter and apologized for talking too long, which was really great of him, but I was surprised that they wouldn't give him the full like 5 minutes to talk because why wouldn't you?
Yeah,
because
exactly.
William Regal stole the show. He was the highlight of this episode of Dynamite.
Unfortunately, they'd already made time a gimmick on the show by announcing a filler match because the title match, which opened the show, didn't go the full distance. So they added the Wheeler Yuta and whatever match. But they announced it before Regal went on, and they should have known that this guy was going to get emotional and probably go over. And then they all had to like scramble for time because they'd announced this stupid filler match that maybe they didn't actually need. And maybe those are supposed to go on at the end of the show. Anyways.
Again, we're going to talk about all this in the main event. TV versus PPV. Oh, baby, it's going to be amazing. Okay, so the 2 big things we got to talk about. So first, how loud did you pop when Mr. Jeff Hardy showed up with his theme music?
I mean, my wife popped louder than I did. I was just like, hey, there he is. But she was super excited.
Yeah, it was kind of weird because the entire segment, like the crowd is just like, where's Jeff?
But everyone
Jeff's coming,
knew.
Right? Where's Jeff? Okay, we're just like they were kind of dead because they were all just waiting for Jeff to pop. It was funny.
I think I messaged you both maybe 5 minutes before he came on. I'm like, here comes Jeff Hardy. And then clearly Jeff Hardy shows up. No big surprise. What I was surprised about was the music. I wasn't sure.
I was surprised
So
too.
apparently Tony Khan he bought the library of a bunch of old like theme songs, including the Jeff Hardy theme song.
Mhm.
So he has like all of this like theme music from like past, like from like wrestlers who wrestled in WWE and WCW.
Mm,
And so he has a library of music that he's licensed.
interesting.
Sorry, that he's licensed. So yeah, so like say he wants to bring back, I don't know, Goldberg. We don't want to see it, but let's just say Goldberg. Like, I don't know, like he can maybe have the theme song to said wrestler. You know, Goldberg's a bad example, but whatever.
Right.
So, what I like is I like how they seem to be aligning the Hardy Boys with Darby Allin and Sting, because there's something about those four dudes that I think works as a good faction or an alliance.
Mhm.
Whereas Matt Hardy with the Blade and the Butcher and Private Party, it just never worked. But Matt Hardy, even if he's older and out of shape and, you know, just not in his prime anymore, with Jeff by his side and Sting and Darby, I think that's an interesting alliance. And Sammy.
Mhm.
The only thing is, two of these guys are older, past their prime. Although let's not forget that Sting did like jump like 20 feet off the freaking balcony onto like 3 tables
Yeah.
during a pay-per-view event. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm like really excited. Jeff Hardy, like, you know, I was watching Raw. And, you know, Kevin Owens, who's like one of the best things about WWE right now, he's cutting his promo and he's teasing Austin. So, like, you know, we're going to get Stone Cold. We should, I think, maybe at WrestleMania, which is cool. And I'm watching the show and I'm like, this is all cool and all. But I'm like, I don't know if these people have ever watched AEW, like the fans, like most of those fans, like have they actually given it a chance or know it exists or watched it? Because the way they pop for like the most stupidest things on WWE and like some of the, like not too hot like wrestling moves, like someone will jump off the top rope and they like go crazy. And I'm like, have you seen Sammy do a 630?
Mhm.
And I just like, I wonder like what the fan base, like if they could get more eyes on their product now. And they see guys like Jeff Hardy and Chris Jericho and, you know, all these guys who used to wrestle in WWE. It's just like I'm kind of confused why they don't have a bigger fan base. Like I think a lot of people just don't know about AEW yet, which is weird because you think they would, but they don't. Like the casual fans.
I don't know. I mean, I clearly WWE has more like worldwide audience than AEW, so I don't know.
Yeah, but Raw was like in I don't know if it was in Florida. I don't know. It was in the States, right? And like the arena's packed.
Yeah.
And like I don't know, like I could be wrong. I just like I wonder about the numbers sometimes when it comes to the ratings and all that. I just wonder about AEW's numbers if they're actually legit, because I wouldn't be surprised if more people are watching it online and those numbers just aren't being recorded.
I think that's the case.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, because WWE is on Fox. Well, no, is it SmackDown on Fox and Raw is on
USA?
Okay, because in Canada it's on TSN.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, guys, the big question of the week. You know it's coming. I'm not going to, like, tell you how I feel because we'll be here for, like, 10 hours. But, so what did you think about Sammy losing the championship to Scorpio Sky?
Disgusted.
Well, he's going to be a transitional champion, and they needed to do something with this storyline of him challenging repeatedly for the belt.
Right.
Because otherwise he's just completely dead and we'll need to, like, everyone will forget about him. I mean, am I happy about it? I don't know. Obviously, we've talked about this before, not the biggest Scorpio fan, but it's clear he's a transitional champion and we're going to get to watch him get power bombed to shit. So, you know, there's that to look forward to.
Right, exactly. I mean, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. But then I started thinking, I'm like, wait, what if somehow Scorpio Sky retains because MJF decides to interfere in a Wardlow match?
That is distinct possibility.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking too. So I'm like, shit, we're gonna have Scorpio Sky the champion for foreseeable future?
Having a douchebag heel champion for a little while, but I think will be good. I mean, I
Yeah,
like Sammy, but like I don't know. Sammy as a face is just, and especially bringing Ty into everything
Right.
now. I'm just like, bleh, saccharine over it.
So they've been working on this for a long time. Apparently,
A long
had
time.
yeah,
Yeah.
they planned that Scorpio Sky would win the championship. I don't know if they anticipated, all of the wrestlers like Keith Lee to whoever, the flood of wrestlers from WWE who've made it over. But regardless, like Keith Lee is not going to get a shot, so it doesn't really matter. At least not right away.
Yeah.
So they've been thinking about doing this for a while. It got delayed.
Yeah.
I mean, how do I feel about possibly my favorite wrestler in the world losing to the most uncharismatic wrestler in the roster because his girlfriend interfered, which, by the way, nobody ever mentioned that they were dating until that very match. So talk about bad storytelling.
Well, that's on TV. And honestly, I think Sammy gets more viewers on his vlog than on Dynamite. So, like,
They
I
must
think
know.
we can just assume the crossover and
Mhm.
people know.
Yeah.
I know, but I'm not like too hot on like blaming it on the girl. Like he loses because his girlfriend gets in the way. Like,
Mm.
and again, to
Well,
Scorpio
I
Sky.
didn't feel like that's why he lost. He lost because he got flashy and went through a table.
Yep.
That's why he
Yeah, I
lost.
guess so.
He got too cocky.
I mean, Sammy couldn't hold on to the championship forever. I'm not a big fan of Scorpio Sky, and I want Scorpio Sky to prove me wrong. And I understand that he's working a gimmick, a character who's supposed to be annoying.
Mhm.
But even when he was a face, he never really worked. Like, I don't know.
I'll be
There's just
honest,
something.
one thing that's kind of helping for me is I watch a lot of AEW wrestler vlogs. I've realized I've got like 4 or 5 of them on heavy rotation, and one of them that I watch regularly is Ethan Page's vlog, and Scorpio Sky, because they work together, is now being featured prominently, and he's actually developing a personality.
Okay, so I'm going to check it out because my issue with Scorpio Sky, and I've said this for like 2 years now, is I always feel like he comes across as being completely phony. And I understand you're playing a character, but when you're acting, like the whole point is you're supposed to fall into the character to kind of sell the character. So therefore it kind of feels like it's like legit, like it's what's the word I'm looking for? Natural, it's genuine. It's not like,
There's
you're
an
not
authenticity
acting.
to it.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. So and the thing about Scorpio Sky, and this could be maybe it's because he's to blame, maybe it's TK, maybe he just needs to find himself, maybe he needs to trust in himself and just be himself. But when you look at like some of the wrestlers who go from one gimmick to the next gimmick and slightly change their character or modify their sort of like personality, it's still very similar to who they are in real life. Be like someone like Chris Jericho, for example. He can go from heel to face and slightly adjust his character, but it's still Chris Jericho. And so the thing about Scorpio Sky is I feel like he's trying too hard to be something that just doesn't work for him. And I think he needs to just be Scorpio Sky. Kind of like the way Daniel Garcia is just Daniel Garcia. Daniel Garcia isn't trying too hard to be over the top like 2.0 because it wouldn't work.
One thing that I kind of get from the vlogs is that I think Scorpio Sky is a little like it is his personality to put up a bit of a front. I think that is him being authentic. Especially with all like the designer labels and all that shit. Like that's him. That's Scorpio. He's the guy buying all the shit.
Oh yeah, but that you see that is cool. Like that would be a great gimmick if it's all about fashion and he's like the slick dude.
Yeah, and I think that's what he thinks he's giving off because that's what he gives off in the vlogs. But I don't know that it's getting communicated on TV. I don't know. Something with him for some reason gets lost in translation, and I don't know. I think it's really he just doesn't know how to communicate it, and that's very frustrating.
But that's what I'm saying. So he comes out, he's dressed to impress. Okay, fine. But then it's the mannerisms, the facial expressions, the way he over exaggerates, the way he's a bad actor is what I'm trying to say. And when you're a bad actor, like, look, you don't have to be the best actor in the world. You don't have to be a good actor to work in a role. It's all about casting the right person for a role. So if you're filming like a movie, like an independent film, and you just need some teenager who fits some sort of like profile, you could just go to high school, pick someone who fits that profile, put him in the movie, and it will most likely work because he's just basically playing who he is in real life type thing. Scorpio Sky just needs to like be himself. If he's all into fashion, then that'll be a great, I don't know if the word is gimmick, but that'll be great. Like, he's just a guy who's slick and dresses well. And
well, I think that's what he thinks that he's doing. Like, the Men of the Year, like that's a magazine thing. That's a fashion thing.
How? He looks like he's Buster Keaton on crack with like the way, like his facial expressions. And
I think the problem is that they have no chance to stand in the forefront of like the conversation when you're still like linked behind what's his face there?
Dan
Lambert.
Dan Lambert.
It's not Dan Lambert though. It's with or without Dan Lambert. Scorpio Sky just, he needs to find himself.
Well, that's
Ethan
true.
Page. Ethan
yeah.
Page is fantastic, but when he's next to Scorpio Sky, he's trying to align himself with this gimmick that Scorpio Sky is doing, which doesn't work for Scorpio Sky, and it's not working for Ethan Page. Therefore, they both look like jabronis, especially when you throw on Dan Lambert.
I feel it's working more with Ethan Page,
Yeah.
because he dresses
Ethan
well.
Page is working the gimmick, and he's good enough. He can work it for two people.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, that's how I feel about like what he's doing in Men of the Year right now.
Yeah, he looks
like
good.
as much as I want to give more to Scorpio Sky, I've always just felt that he's been kind of average on everything, and like the only reason we kind of buy them as heels is because Ethan Page is so good.
Yeah, he's doing most of the heavy lifting. I mean, like he's got no he's got
like
no
he's
like
recovered
presence.
when Dan Lambert has fucked things up. Like he's so okay. This is just gonna turn into me like raving about Ethan Page and bemoaning. Like he needs to be doing everything. He needs to be doing more. I hate that he's stuck here, and like I'm glad he's getting as much TV time as he is, but I just want so much more for him.
Me too.
Didn't we say that he has the best smile?
He does, yeah.
Yes,
and
yes.
And I think he knows it. The way
it's part of his gimmick, but at the same time, he has a great smile. He has great eyes. Sorry.
I mean, he's a tall, good-looking dude. I'll say that.
I'm not going to argue that he's good looking. He's not like, I don't go crazy for Ethan Page, but I understand why someone like Mariko would go crazy over Ethan Page. But no, he does. I think when I forget what the segment was. We talked about like fashion and like looks, and we did name him.
Oh, we were
as
doing
the wrestler with the best
superlatives
smile.
for the yearbook.
Right? Yeah, that was.
Yeah, the yearbook. So that was a fun segment. Okay, so you know what? I do have one more question. So speaking of, personality, being cocky, arrogant, fashion, all that stuff. I don't like Swerve. Am I alone here?
I'll give it a pass. I always give like the first match pass.
It's not the match.
You mean his character?
It's just like it's another version of Scorpio Sky, slightly better.
Yeah, I feel like he has more swag than
he does.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Slightly better.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's got the crowd.
He's got the crowd.
The crowd that he has is the crowd who has followed him in different promotions and knows his gimmick and whose house is it, Swerve's house, which is a great tagline, slogan, whatever you want to call it. I'm not sold yet. I'm gonna give it a chance. Clearly, he just showed up. I'm not sold on this guy, but if you look at the chemistry between, say, Keith Lee and Ricky Starks, I don't think Tony Khan yet realizes that is gold. He's sitting on a gold mine with Keith Lee and Ricky Starks. That to me is
that's why they put him in a feud with Team Taz. Like,
I know, but I don't think, like, even though they set it up, I don't think anyone realizes, like, I think that has the potential to be like, and everyone's gonna think I'm crazy, but like Rock and Austin kind of levels of like hype. Because Keith Lee is amazing on the microphone.
I don't disagree. No, those guys just ooze friggin' charisma. This is gonna be
Mhm.
fantastic. Like, the build to all this is gonna be so good. I cannot wait.
Aaron, do you remember when The Rock would imitate like his opponents
Yeah.
in the ring?
Mhm.
And like that is what Ricky Starks is doing. He's imitating Keith Lee in the way he talks. It's so funny. It's amazing. Like, and that's the thing. Like, Swerve to me is just it's just a stupid gimmick. Like, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't like his gimmick,
Mm.
regardless of how good he is in the ring. And I sent you guys a video. He recently wrestled the 16-year-old Nick. What's his
Nick
name?
Wayne.
Yeah, Nick Wayne, which was an impressive match for Nick Wayne, especially because he's only like 16,
Mhm.
right? So, like, you know, like I know the guy can wrestle. We'll see where it goes. I'm just not sure if I like this gimmick. And you know what? If this is sort of like a gimmick that's similar to Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky, which is also going to be similar to Chris Jericho's new faction, or at least Chris Jericho, how many of these like influencer type whatever celebrity personalities do we need in AEW right now?
Mm.
Well, the other thing is, like, there's only so many heel personas that still can resonate in 2022, and the obnoxious celebrity is always gonna be an important one. So, and I do feel like they all have enough of a twist on it that it, like, I don't feel like it's too similar, but you know, whatever.
All I know is the best thing that's happened in AEW in the past like 4 weeks has been the interactions between Keith Lee and Ricky Starks. Like, I think those small 2 to 3 minute long segments and promos have been the most entertaining thing on this promotion, more so than even like the wrestling matches. Like, I think it's just that good, and I can't wait to see more of this feud.
Yeah, I'm hyped.
All right, that's it for the opening segment. I think we should move on to the main event because I think we're 30 minutes into the show.
Yeah. All right, on that note, we are going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we will be discussing the main event. Are there matches that should be on pay-per-view that were on TV? Are there matches on TV that should have been saved for a pay-per-view? When we come back.
Now, Tony, so in return, Max, I will wash my hands of you and we can go our separate ways. I know, trust me, I would love to powerbomb Max until he can't move. But I've wasted 3 years on him. I refuse to waste another ounce of energy. Karma will be my revenge, and we can all sit back and watch Max get everything he has coming to him. So, Tony, my only concern, the only thing I care about is winning the TNT Championship and obtaining a new contract. And when that happens, I'm not stopping at TNT title. After years of giving, it is my turn to take, and I want it all. So as of right now, I am letting everyone know All Elite Wrestling is officially Wardlow's world.
And we're back on Talk AEW for the main event. So we've been discussing fallout from Revolution itself, and I think we've all kind of mentioned in both discussions that there are matches that feel like they could have been on TV that were on a pay-per-view, and there were matches on pay-per-view that should have been on a TV. Ricky, let's start with your thoughts.
Okay, so like if I was Tony Khan, I would need some help. Like, I feel like things are getting overwhelming for him. He's clearly talented, but he's also busy. He's like a billionaire. He has like a football team and a soccer team and AEW and Ring of Honor and God knows what else, right? And there's only so many hours in a day. And I feel like he needs help, and I don't think there's anything wrong with, getting help, because I do agree a lot of times with Jim Cornette about the booking. And sometimes it feels like he does things backwards. And I feel like he's also too buddy and friends with everyone in the roster. And, that can interfere with sort of like business decisions you make because you're trying to give everyone a chance. For example, and this is where I'm going to start, I think Dante Martin is one of the most electrifying and talented wrestlers in the roster. I love this kid. I don't understand why they have a world title match in the first hour of Dynamite, not the opening match, not the main event, jammed in the middle of the program for the world title. And with that comes commercial breaks. And so for me, I think when they had the matches with Daniel Bryanson and those, the 1 hour match in Dynamite, like all of that made sense. It was a big thing. It was talked about. It was all over the news, front page news, bloggers, wrestling fans went nuts about it. That made sense, right? You open with this big 45-minute match, 1 hour match, whatever. But when you jam, again, a world title match into a TV program in the middle, it's not a main event. It's not even the opening match. And you're supposed to be giving Dante Martin sort of like a shot at the title, which is nice of you, but it just seems to devalue the world title. And we're supposed to have a TV title called the TNT Championship, which is now the TV. I don't even know what the hell the championship is now because there's like 2 belts. But the point is, like, that's the kind of match where I'm not saying it has to be on a pay-per-view event. Like, you could have a world title match on the TV show, but it should at least be the main event. It shouldn't be stuck in the middle.
Yeah.
So there's these weird decisions that Tony Khan makes sometimes, and it feels like he's making it because he's really nice and wants to give someone a shot at a belt.
I think it was more that he wanted to give the audience a very, very, very entertaining match because he was scrambling after the pay-per-view, had only really booked a few things, and like this just felt like pure fan service. This wasn't about the belt at all. This was just about having an entertaining match with a talented person that was getting a push but is gonna be changing directions. But I understand involving the belt in this was weird.
The thing is, I've complained about this in the past. I think that for specific matches, like I understand you're on television. I understand you're trying to get eyeballs on Dynamite. It's very, very important to make your show number one, to get as many people watching Dynamite as possible. I understand. Mm-hmm. And I understand that big matches like the Blood in the Cell match brings a lot of attention and viewers. But again, just the booking, the position, the timing, the commercials, world title, it devalues the championship. And this is just one example of how I think they do things backward. And I'm sure you guys have examples too. So let me hear your examples, then we can talk about this a bit more.
For me, I didn't have a problem with it. I'm just gonna like cut into like the whole beginning, the championship being the beginning of the match. First of all, like it's not the first time this happens. AEW is not the first one that does it. Also, WWE does it. I think we've talked about it in the past. Is that the viewership count is usually higher in the first hour than it is in the second hour. So if you want to get more eyes on your product, I say put it in the beginning. So,
but why wasn't it at the start of the show?
Why wasn't? Oh, because we started with Jericho, right?
That tells me that Jericho is more valuable than Hangman Adam Page as the champion.
Yeah, I mean, when you put it in that way, like you have a point. Because
Jericho either opens the show or he's at the 9:00 spot every week.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, why open it with Jericho cutting a promo about his new faction? That is the weird part.
It's because Jericho drives the needle.
Right, but so I don't think this match should have been a pay-per-view match. Like, we're talking about PPV versus TV. Yeah. I'm just talking about in terms of like
this was always a TV match. The other thing about it for me, like, honestly, it did feel random until the end when Hangman started cutting the promo on Dante. And that to me gave the whole thing a purpose beyond being, a long shot, title shot that was just designed to be entertaining and crowd service.
Yeah. And also what you got to remember is they reserved the 9:00 spot for Jeff Hardy. So the build up to Jeff Hardy happened leading up to 9:00. And it was right around 9:00 that Jeff Hardy came out, because that's when people tune in. They switch channels.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But here's another example. So Thunder Rosa, Britt Baker have a match on the pay-per-view event. It wasn't very good.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're going to have a steel cage match on Dynamite. So
Yeah.
the pros is that we get a free match or a cage match on free TV, which is great. And hopefully it brings more people to watch Dynamite, which increases the ratings, which is good for wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Good for Dynamite, good for Tony Khan, good for the company.
Mhm.
But on the downside is that would be a way better pay-per-view match, because I spend $50 to $60 for a pay-per-view event. I don't want to see a bad match. I want to see a great match, and I don't want to see a cage match with commercials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do know why they're doing it this way. But I also absolutely feel that the matches should have been reversed for exactly the reasons that you say.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the match at the pay-per-view was to set up a steel cage match because of all of the interference. I was like any other promotion, you do that on TV. The reason that Tony Khan decided to change it is because next week's Dynamite is in Thunder Rosa's hometown.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to get her the hometown pop.
Yep.
That's why.
Yeah. So I was actually talking about this with Alma yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that usually, you know, when we do our predictions, we're always right, for example. Like, it's not very hard to figure out who's going to win and what's going to happen if you're watching wrestling on a week to week basis. But the thing is, every time they go to someone's hometown, that person wins. And so it's not going to be a shocker if Thunder Rosa
Or they
wins.
lose if you're Brian Pillman Jr.
Yeah, exactly.
They've done it a couple times where people have lost in their hometown.
CM Punk lost MJF in Chicago.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a thing too. That is a thing too.
I mean, good for Thunder Rosa. I hope it's going to be like the Blood and Guts match, in which they cut to commercial break maybe twice, but at the right time. Although they did get it wrong during the Blood and Guts match. They cut to commercial, and when we came back for commercial, they were on top of the cage.
Yes.
And we were like,
that was confusing. Let's hope that they've learned lessons after that.
Yeah. Because, I mean, this is going to be a really big deal. So there's a lot of people with a lot invested in not fucking this up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, like, the thing is, it's weird because I think my main issue, and it's something that I don't think we can really get around, it's really just the commercial breaks, because I noticed a lot of times when they open with a match, they can go to commercial break 20 minutes in. We noticed this with the American Dragon Danielson matches, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like an hour long. The first commercial break is at the 20-minute mark or the 25-minute mark.
Mm-hmm.
When we get to the main event, it's different.
Yeah.
The main event, we can get a commercial break within 5 or 10 minutes, and then we get a commercial break 5 or 10 minutes later.
Yep.
And I know we get the picture-in-picture, but I'm sorry, it's just not the thing. It takes me out of the it pulls me out. And so when it comes to a big, huge match, like, I personally prefer the pay-per-view event, but we only get 4 a year. It's not like WWE where you get 1 a year. Thank God, that's too much.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like this weird balancing act that Tony Khan has to sort of deal with. But I still think, like, I don't know, like, I still think that Tony Khan, and I don't know how much, like, because at the end of the day, he's the one that has the final say, from my understanding. But I feel like he's such a nice guy based on just knowing him from the interviews that we see online, of which there are plenty, because he's always on the camera. He loves to be in front of the camera. Just the way everyone talks about him. He seems like he's such a nice guy that I kind of feel like he's doing a lot to not satisfy, but to keep everybody happy.
Yeah.
And I've always said you can't keep everybody happy.
No.
And when you try to keep everybody happy, it will backfire, and you will have situations arise like the Big Swole controversy or the Chavo Guevara controversy. So, yeah. And, like, I was thinking about the Andrade, Darby Allin, Sammy match on Rampage, which was one of the best matches of 2022.
Yeah, that was
Incredible.
insane.
Would that have been better on the pay-per-view event?
I literally said so on our pay-per-view recap.
Yeah, I mean, like, in a lot of ways, like, yes, because the people involved was going to be, the interest was higher with the people involved in that Rampage match compared to like the pay-per-view. It's just, I guess it's just like the whatever happened in the pay-per-view just took all of us by surprise. I think we've mentioned
Yeah,
that
I
in the
mean, it's
review.
not like the pay-per-view was necessarily a bad match.
Hmm.
It's just story-wise and stakes-wise, the other match felt
Yeah,
more
yeah,
important.
exactly.
Like it's again the balancing like the storyline and the seriousness and just the fan service of it all.
Like, and I do think that having cage matches and even like the blood and guts match on Dynamite is fantastic. I'm really excited to see this match. Let's not forget that the match of 2021 was the lights out match with Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker on an episode of Dynamite. So
Uh-huh.
that was like the match of the year on Dynamite, not on the pay-per-view event. But I hope that it's set up in a way where, because like I don't even know if it's going to open or close a show. I'm assuming close a show because you got to like bring the cage down, and to dismantle it, it's going to take too long, right?
Yeah,
Like that's what happened with Cody.
No, I think that's the way that they're going to have to do it. The other thing that I had actually forgotten about was that not only is next week's Dynamite in Thunder Rosa's hometown, it is also the anniversary of the Lights Out match.
Oh,
Yeah, the last
wow.
the original Lights Out match was at St. Patrick's Day Slam 2021.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay, that's amazing. The only, and we discussed and reviewed and dissected Revolution last week, so we don't really have to repeat what we said. But I do think that I don't necessarily have an issue with pay-per-view events being 4 hours long. I think 4 hours is the right amount of time.
Mhm.
It just depends on how you pace it. It's like what match comes first, second, third, fourth, etc., etc. And I thought the pacing was off in Revolution because by the time you get to Danielson versus Moxley, everyone was exhausted, for example.
Yeah, and having so many long matches, like either throw in one or two squashes or something random, or just honest, like I would have been okay cutting 2 matches just because everything was so long. It was just exhausting by the end of it. Like, it's not like it wasn't good wrestling, but like humans, we only have so much energy to sit and watch something and get invested in it, and especially when there's like so many highs and lows. Like it's tough, man. We're old.
Well, do you think that's because we watched the buy-in as well, which is 5 hours? Well, I mean, it'll watching the buy-in.
I mean,
makes the
it
whole
doesn't
thing 5
help,
hours.
but I don't think that it's that significant because that's just how crazy we are for wrestling.
Yeah. Plus, I like to think as the buy-in as like the warm up leading into like Revolution, right? Because like they're generally like very good matches, and they do a good job of like getting you excited that Revolution started. So, usually I don't have a problem with that. It's just that the way like the pay-per-view started was just like bang, 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 like match after match of like
Yes,
insanity.
exactly.
Like it's just like I
there really wasn't a lot of breathing room.
right, exactly.
No, exactly. And that's the thing. I always complain about this. Everyone says, "Oh, well, we don't want it to be just like WWE." But with WrestleMania and Royal Rumble and Survivor Series and what have you, they have these amazing video packages in between the matches, which gives people a chance to relax, breathe, go to the washroom, get some food, etc., etc. With AEW, it's like amazing match, and by the way, let's start the next amazing match right away. Like I think maybe
you don't
we
have
had
a chance to go to the bathroom. Like pee breaks is like I'm yelling at my husband through the door so that we're keeping each other abreast of what's happening. Like it's a lot of times with AEW, it's like complaining about too much of a good thing.
That's true. It's like we're complaining too much of a good thing. But then I'm thinking to myself too. I'm like, if I was in that show, like, when am I gonna have time to get beer or something? Like, or refill my drink?
When you take a break, when you get nachos, you're there for 5 hours. You're gonna get hungry.
5 hours. That's the thing about the crowd is the crowd shows up early.
Yeah.
And then you have the buy-in, so they're gonna watch the buy-in, and then you have the 4 hour long pay-per-view event. So they've been at the stadium for at least 7-8 hours.
Drinking overpriced beer and crap nachos. Like, of course everyone is like draggy by the end of it.
Yeah, like when I've gone to WrestleMania, there's all the big events that happen throughout the week, throughout the weekend, and they're spaced out. And so it's not like you're going from one event to the next event to the next event, right? But when you get to WrestleMania, it's like you go in, you get to your seat, and like maybe you wait. I mean, you can get there early, but I would wait like a half an hour and WrestleMania starts. There's no buy-in. There's no like, and it's just like bam, and it's like there's time to get food and stuff in between the matches. Some matches start right away, but I don't know. All I know is that everyone agrees the crowd sort of like died down towards the end. They woke up again, but in terms of pay-per-view versus TV, my only real issue is just like I said, the knowing when to put the matches and not having too many commercial breaks. Because if you're watching again a championship match, you want to get lost in the action, in the feel, in the suspense. You don't want it to just be interrupted by a commercial.
No, I hear you, because like you want an uninterrupted like full match. It's just, but that's just the nature of TV. Although I'm trying to think if WWE used to do this, or WCW, like where they would like put commercials, like it would be a lot of commercial breaks early in the episode, but then by towards the main event there'd be like one commercial break.
Yeah, and they've done similar things on Dynamite before, where they've kind of moved blocks around so that they can have I feel like maybe something similar had actually happened at the last Patrick's Day Slam event, because that's when we got the Lights Out match. And that was a match on TV. So there would have been commercial breaks, but sitting here talking about it now, like we're not complaining about the commercial breaks and that. So I think they're going to be able to do something similar for next week's Dynamite.
But it has a lot to do with the wrestlers, the referee who's controlling the action, and the director of the show. And I guess I'm not entirely sure when it comes to wrestling, I'm not entirely sure what the difference between the producer, the director, et cetera, is. Like with movies, we know what a director is, but it seems like...
And it also kind of changes from promotion to promotion, because I know WWE producers are actually bookers, but I think at AEW, like the bookers and the coaches it's a whole thing.
But it's usually it's like the referee would signal to the wrestlers, it's like, hey, we're going to commercial break in like 30 seconds or 60 seconds, and they know that they need to do something where one of them takes a bump, he or she's on the ground, they're trying to recover, you go to commercial break, you're not missing any high flying action. With AEW, the problem is a lot of times they go to commercial break, there's a lot of great shit happening. You're like, what the hell? But this is the best way for me to sort of like describe how I feel about AEW sometimes in terms of like their big matches on TV. Imagine watching the Stanley Cup playoffs, like the NHL playoffs, but it's for the Stanley Cup, right? And you're in Game 7. And so usually, well, always, they cut to commercial break when the ref blows his whistle, right? Like icing call or a penalty or a goal, right? And they cut to commercial break. It'll be like you're watching the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's for the Stanley Cup. It's Game 7, okay? And like there's a breakaway, and they cut to commercial break. And you have no idea what's going on, who scored, and then they come back for commercial break, and next thing you know, it's like 3-2. It's like, what? That's what I mean about watching AEW. It's like, even if it was picture in picture, like when they cut to commercial break, a lot of times it makes no sense. You're cutting at the wrong time.
Yeah. I think that's just another thing that like AEW, Tony Khan, I mean, they're gonna have to learn this stuff. But I have noticed it more the past couple of months though. Like they cut to picture in picture after like maybe like a big bump or a big spot, and give the time the wrestler to breathe a bit. So they're getting smarter when to cut into a commercial.
But listen, even with Revolution, I still think the Punk and MJF match should have been the main event, even if it's not the world title. Because here's the thing, like this is what's weird about, again, doing things backwards. So Tony Khan doesn't want to put Punk and MJF as the main event at the pay-per-view because the world title should be the main event because it's the world title, right?
Yes.
But then on Dynamite, the following 3 days later, he puts the world title in the middle of Dynamite.
Well, not
It makes no sense.
not
you do
the
things
middle.
backwards.
It was literally the first match of Dynamite
After
Yeah,
Jericho's
Jericho,
promo.
yes.
But do you see what I'm saying? So on Dynamite, he can do that, but not on the pay-per-view
Mm.
event. Why not? Why not just put Punk and MJF as the main event and have the world title before?
Mm. Oh,
That's what I don't
Right.
understand.
I don't know. Like I said, in terms of just the format of the TV. I mean, this, I mentioned earlier in the beginning of the topic, was just that it's not the first time we've seen a main event open the beginning of the match. I mean, we've had Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega, and
I like how none of us have gotten his name right this episode.
did I screw it up again?
And
I
so
don't
did Ricky
even-
earlier.
Yeah,
I think we've all done it. Today.
I just never noticed at this point. Anyway,
I know he's Brian Bryanson from now on.
yeah. So Daniel Bryanson. I mean, we've had that match with Kenny Omega and Daniel Bryanson and Arthur
No,
Ashe
it's
Jr.
Brian Danielson.
Oh, shit. It's like the more Mariko tries to correct us, the more we fuck it up.
It's just...
Dude, that's why I just say the American Dragon. It
Yeah.
simplifies
Oh my
it.
god! I know my husband does it now too, and he didn't even watch WWE. But yeah, it's
It's too funny.
I mean, Mariko, it's like if all of a sudden you wanted us to start calling you McDonald's.
Yeah,
Hey,
McDonald
McDonald.
Mariko-san. Yeah, yes, it would be extremely confusing. I totally agree.
Oh my god. Now I lost my train of thought. But anyway,
I just kind of want someone to do a smash cut of us fucking it up all the time from every episode. I'm sure it would go on forever.
We should do that, end of the year episode or something.
We say this often, but when we get critical in this show, we're clearly huge fans of AEW.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just there's always room for improvement, and I don't think there's anything wrong with me complaining about them going to commercial break at the wrong time during a big match.
No, I mean
and everyone agrees the CM Punk MJF match should have been the main event, and that's what's so mind-boggling about it, that they didn't think it should come after the world title match, but then again on Dynamite they put the world title match after Jericho.
Right.
So.
I mean, like just to that point, right? As AEW fans, I think they do a pretty good job. We're just nitpicking at little. We're complaining about too much of a good thing, right? Just like Mariko said.
Yeah, a lot of time, our real complaint is just
it's too good. That was
there's too much goodness. Why do you keep putting it on TV? What?
To end the segment, okay, again, if I was TK, I would have not had the match with Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker in the pay-per-view event.
Yeah,
Made it long.
yeah,
It wasn't
yeah,
a good match.
yeah.
I would have
built
done
up
that
to San Antonio.
whole- exactly. I would have done that whole thing on TV with all the interference and just left it off the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I would have put the 3-man match between Darby, Andrade, and Sammy in the pay-per-view event,
Yeah.
not the 6-man match.
Yeah.
And the Jade, you couldn't really get around the Jade match, whatever.
Yeah.
You needed Jade on the pay-per-view event. It wasn't a great match, but
I maybe would
was
have
short.
cut it down by another minute. Maybe put it earlier in the card too.
I think it's actually good that they had the ladder match for the TV title on the pay-per-view event, because the match needs to take place on TV. You're not going to have the TNT Championship. I mean, they've done it before where they defend, Darby Allin won the TNT Championship at Full Gear, for example.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of building it up to Wardlow, which is next week, right?
Yep.
He's wrestling Scorpio Sky.
Yes.
Jeez. So yeah, those are the small, I say small changes. And of course I put MJF and Punk as the main event. Those are the changes I would make. And I think that would have made a better pay-per-view event, especially in terms of the pacing.
Yeah, it just
Maybe-
needed some breathing room. But again,
Yeah.
we're complaining there was too much good wrestling on the wrestling show.
We couldn't
I want
stop
more
watching.
just talking and nonsense so I can pee. It just sounds so petty.
Yeah,
but-
it does.
Yeah, but I still like my entertainment. I like when they have these stupid segments, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good example right now.
Yeah, there's not much to think about when you're trying compared to WWE, like in terms of like good segments.
It's because WWE, like the good and the bad about that company, and I'm not talking about like now present day. I'm talking about even like in the past, is they have an army of writers, like comedy TV writers, for example,
They had
who
good,
can really, who can really
Yes.
think of like some amazing sort of like comedy sketches to do in between the matches. I don't think Tony Khan has an army of writers. I don't think Tony Khan has writers. I
No,
think it's
they don't.
just
Yeah.
them.
No,
I don't
I
think
know
it's a bad
some
thing
of
to
the
hire.
wrestlers probably have like people they work with, but other
Mhm.
than that,
Yeah,
like Jericho.
but I
for
don't think it
sure.
would be a. I don't think it would be a bad thing to hire someone like Freddie Prinze Jr. or someone to come
Get
in
a
and sort of
story
like
editor.
yeah, and you don't. It's not like the thing is like you just need someone to come up with ideas. You don't have to
And
go
he,
with the
yeah,
ideas.
just someone who is in charge of all of the different branches of the story and where they're
Mhm.
going, and yeah, who can like you know, ghostwrite some entertainment.
Yeah.
Like me, for example, because I would do the X-Men of AEW. We talked about this last week. Hear me out. So Hook is Iceman.
Right.
Danhausen is Nightcrawler.
Mhm.
Jade is Storm.
Mhm.
Keith Lee is Beast.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, the Professor, the way he talks.
Mm-hmm.
Britt Baker is Jean Grey. I still don't know who Professor X is, though.
Trying to think. Who
Yeah,
would be a
I
good
was like, is there a bald old man? There's a lot of old men, but there's no one bald.
I mean, the only person I can think of is Tully Blanchard.
Yeah, but he's not bald, though.
He's that's halfway there.
Balding.
He's balding. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know. He's halfway there.
I'm
What
just
about
joking.
bald, but he doesn't fit the profile other than that at all.
Yeah, I don't know who would make a good Professor X.
We don't necessarily have to do our X-Men
No, we
fantasy
don't.
booking right
We
now.
We'll save it for another show.
All right, on that note, I think we are going to call it an episode. I would very much like to thank my co-host, Mr. Aaron Santos.
No problemo.
I'd also like to thank all of you out there in podcast land and remind you to rate, review, subscribe if you can on your platform. We appreciate it. But lastly, I want to thank the editor-in-chief of TalkAEW.net, Mr. Ricky D.
Just a reminder, you can find the podcast over at TalkAEW.net. It is connected to GumaStomp.com and TiltMagazine.net. It's sort of like, I don't know, like a network of websites. But the podcast is over at TalkAEW.net. It's a website that we are building. It's a work in progress. We do have some articles, but the podcast is there. If you want to contribute, write, whatever, be part of the team, send us an email. You can find all the information over at talkaw.net. You can find this podcast everywhere on Amazon, Spotify, YouTube, you name it, wherever you get your podcasts. And do follow us on Twitter and Instagram because you should, and it's a lot of fun. And thank you to everyone who does.
Goodbye.
Until now, look at this Darby just charging right in. Hell bent, no fear. Relentless Darby Allin and the Icon Sting. Sting going right at Butcher and Blade, but Private Party, they've got Darby overwhelmed in the corner. And look at Andrade and Jose. Yeah, the numbers game is going to catch up with Sting and Darby, it would appear. Wait a minute! Wait a minute! Jeffrey Nero Hardy is here tonight and ready to fight. Jeff Hardy takes out Mark Quinn, takes out the Blade, and here's the Butcher. Oh, the Butcher gets rocked. Jeff Hardy has arrived in All Elite Wrestling. This crowd has had an out-of-body experience just like we have.